In a world where freshness is synonymous with health, the refrigerator has become the undisputed king of our kitchens. We open and close it dozens of times a day, entrusting it with our most precious foods, convinced that its cold embrace is the ultimate guarantee against deterioration and disease. But what if this unshakable trust is, in part, an illusion? What if behind that sealed door lies a secret that could compromise not only the taste of our food, but also our health? Stay until the end of the video, because the statistics are alarming to say the least and cast a disturbing shadow over this habit of ours. Did you know that every year, in Italy and neighboring countries alone, millions of people contract foodborne illnesses? This is a silent army of people suffering from ailments ranging from a mild stomach ache to serious conditions requiring hospitalization. Tragically, for thousands of them, the outcome is fatal. And the segment of the population most affected, the one paying the highest price, is precisely the elderly. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and other international health organizations are adamant. Adults over the age of 65 are at significantly higher risk. As we age, our immune systems, once an insurmountable bulwark, lose some of their efficiency. They become less reactive, slower to recognize and neutralize threats. As a result, a bacterium that a 30-year-old might shed without even realizing it could trigger a serious infection in an elderly person. The truly terrifying, almost counterintuitive thing is that the point of origin of many of these illnesses is not an unhygienic restaurant or a distant market, but the very heart of our home, the refrigerator. Yes, that very appliance that we consider a sanctuary of food safety can, under certain circumstances, slowly transform healthy, everyday foods into real health hazards. This is not about alarmism, but about food chemistry and biology. Recent studies published in scientific nutrition journals have conclusively demonstrated that improper storage of certain foods in the cold of the refrigerator can have unexpected and harmful consequences. This environment, in fact, can trigger an exponential increase in the risk of food poisoning, accelerate the loss of vital nutrients such as vitamins and antioxidants, and even catalyze chemical reactions that give rise to harmful compounds, some of which are suspected of being carcinogenic. If you are someone who, out of habit or hearsay, has always put fruits, vegetables, or pantry products in the refrigerator without thinking twice, you could, without knowing it, expose yourself to these risks. The worst part is that most people have no idea. We continue to make the same mistakes, generation after generation, convinced that we are doing the best thing. In this article, we will not limit ourselves to listing the foods that are forbidden from the refrigerator. Together, we will explore the science behind each warning, explaining in a simple and clear way why the cold becomes an enemy. We will provide you with the knowledge to transform your kitchen into a safer place and to enjoy your foods to their full nutritional and flavor potential. But before we continue, we ask you for a small gesture that is of great help to us. Like the video, share it with people you care about and who could benefit from it, and write in the comments which city you follow our content from. Your participation helps us reach more people with this vital information. And now we begin our journey with a kitchen mainstay, a humble yet incredibly versatile tuber that most people instinctively put in the vegetable bin of their refrigerator: potatoes. The idea is that the cold keeps them firm and prevents them from sprouting. The truth, backed by decades of agricultural research, is that refrigerating raw potatoes is not only useless, it actively makes them dangerous. At the cellular level, when a potato is exposed to temperatures below 7 degrees Celsius, a stress reaction occurs. The intense cold triggers an acceleration in the activity of an enzyme called invertase, whose job is to break down the complex starch of the potato into simpler sugars, mainly glucose and fructose. In practice, the cold tricks the potato, making it convert its energy reserves, starch, into sugars. This abnormal accumulation of sugars has two main negative effects. The first is about the taste. The potatoes will become unpleasantly sweet once cooked. The second, and much more serious, is about health. When these sugar-enriched potatoes are cooked at high temperatures, over 120 degrees Celsius, as happens during frying or baking, the sugars react with a naturally occurring amino acid, asparagine. This reaction produces an unwanted byproduct, acrylamide. Acrylamide is a chemical that the International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified as a probable human carcinogen. Potatoes thrive in conditions opposite to those of the refrigerator. They need a cool, but not cold, ideally between 7 and 10 degrees, dark, dry, and well-ventilated place. A cellar, a cool pantry, or even a paper bag in a dark cabinet away from heat sources are ideal solutions. This not only prevents the formation of sugars and acrylamide, but also preserves their floury texture and authentic flavor. Let's move on to bread. If the mistake with potatoes is linked to a chemical risk, the one we make with another fundamental food, bread, accelerates its aging process in a surprising way. Who has never put half a loaf of bread in the refrigerator, hoping to prolong its life by a couple of days? It is an almost universal gesture, and yet it is one of the most sensational mistakes that can be made against this food. The phenomenon responsible for this disaster has a scientific name: starch retrogradation. The starch molecules in freshly baked bread are arranged and hydrated, giving it its softness. When bread is refrigerated, the cold temperatures act as a catalyst for a recrystallization process. The starch molecules rearrange themselves into rigid structures, expelling water. This process occurs up to 4 times faster in the refrigerator than at room temperature. The result is a bread that becomes stale, dry, hard, and crumbly in record time. Its texture becomes unpleasant, making a simple sandwich a disappointing experience. But it's not just a matter of taste. Bread that has lost its moisture unevenly, once brought back to room temperature, becomes an ideal breeding ground for mold. And moldy bread isn't just gross. Some molds can produce mycotoxins, toxic compounds that are especially dangerous for those with weakened immune systems, like many older adults. To store bread for 2 to 3 days, the best solution is a paper bag or a bread bin at room temperature. If you need to store it longer, your best friend is not the fridge, but the freezer. Freezing bread instantly stops both retrogradation and mold growth. The trick is to slice it first, so you can defrost only the slices you need. From the texture of bread, we now move on to the aromas of the kitchen. Onions, inseparable companions of many sofriti, suffer an equally unfortunate fate if stored in the damp cold of the refrigerator. Their sturdy, papery skin seems made to last, but this mistake not only ruins their texture and flavor, but can also compromise the quality of everything around them. Whole onions are low-moisture organisms, protected by a natural barrier. The cold, humid environment of the refrigerator is the exact opposite of what they need. Moisture seeps through the skin, disrupting the onion's delicate balance. Its cells absorb water, which leads to a loss of crispness and a soft, watery texture, and also creates ideal conditions for mold to grow. But the biggest and most insidious problem is odor transfer. Onions are full of volatile sulfur compounds that, in the refrigerator, are more easily released and absorbed by other foods. Have you ever tasted a piece of cake, butter, or fruit with a bizarre onion aftertaste? It wasn't your imagination. As for already chopped onions, they should be refrigerated, but in an airtight container and consumed within a day or two at most. Whole onions should be stored like potatoes, in a cool, dry, dark, and, above all, well-ventilated place. A net or perforated basket in a pantry is perfect. It is also important to keep them separate from potatoes, because potatoes release moisture that can make onions rot faster. And if onions corrupt the flavors of others, another pillar of the Mediterranean diet, the tomato, sees its flavor literally murdered by the cold. The tomato is, botanically speaking, a fruit of tropical origin, and this nature is the key to understanding why the refrigerator is its worst enemy. Putting a tomato in the refrigerator is like condemning it to a slow and tasteless death. The intense cold of the refrigerator causes what scientists call chill damage. At these temperatures, the enzymatic processes responsible for ripening are irreversibly blocked. By blocking this process, flavor creation is blocked. The cold also damages the cell membranes within the pulp, which release water and lead to a mealy, mushy texture. The result is a fruit that is only a faint reminder of what it should be, but it's not just the flavor that's lost. Tomatoes are a valuable source of antioxidants, such as lycopene and vitamin C, which degrade significantly when stored in the cold. So, not only are you sacrificing the pleasure of taste, but also important health benefits, which are essential for fighting oxidative stress. Tomatoes do best at room temperature, out of direct sunlight. Store them on the kitchen counter. If they start to get too ripe, don't put them in the fridge to save them. Use them right away to make a delicious sauce or soup. Just like tomatoes, garlic, its ideal companion in many sauces, hides dangers if treated with the coldness of the refrigerator, turning from a superfood to a potential risk. Garlic is celebrated for its benefits thanks to compounds such as allicin, but these powers can vanish if stored in the wrong place. Similar to onions, whole garlic bulbs are designed to last for months at room temperature. The cold, moist environment of the refrigerator breaks their dormant state and leads to premature sprouting. This process depletes the clove's nutrient reserves, especially allicin, the compound responsible for the health benefits and pungent flavor. Sprouted garlic will not only taste more bitter, but it will also have lost much of its therapeutic value. In addition, there is a much more sinister, though rare, risk: botulism. Garlic, especially when minced and stored in oil in the refrigerator in an oxygen-free environment, can become a breeding ground for Clostridium botulinum spores, which produce botulinum toxin, one of the most potent known. Store whole garlic bulbs in a cool, dry, dark, ventilated place, such as a pantry or mesh basket. If you have minced excess garlic, you can store it in the refrigerator for a very short time in an airtight container, or freeze it. But don't let the refrigerator strip the garlic of its power. From the intense aromas of garlic and onion, we move on to another aroma sacred to many, that of coffee. Yet, a common mistake threatens to ruin this morning experience: storing coffee beans or powder in the refrigerator. The idea is to preserve their freshness, but the result is the exact opposite. Roasted coffee beans are porous and hygroscopic, absorbing moisture and odors from the environment, like a sponge. The refrigerator is an environment full of different odors that will irremediably contaminate your precious coffee. In addition, humidity is its #1 enemy. Every time you take out the container, the temperature difference creates condensation, which accelerates the degradation of essential oils, the true custodians of aroma and flavor. It's not just the flavor that's lost. Coffee is packed with antioxidants, such as chlorogenic acids, which have benefits for heart and brain health. These compounds break down faster in cold, humid conditions. Over time, refrigerated coffee not only becomes undrinkable, but it also loses its potential benefits. The best way to store it is in an opaque, airtight container, at room temperature, in a dark cupboard. If coffee is ruined by the cold, another sweetness in the pantry, honey suffers an equally unpleasant fate. Honey is an almost magical food, one of the few in the world that, if stored correctly, never expires. Its longevity is due to low humidity and high acidity. Putting it in the refrigerator is not only useless, but sabotages its natural properties. In addition, the crystalline structure can trap moisture, which in the long term can trigger fermentation, giving it a sour taste and compromising the natural antibacterial properties of honey. In practice, refrigerating it risks weakening its defenses. Honey should be stored in a tightly closed glass jar at room temperature in a pantry. If it crystallizes, simply gently heat the jar in a bain-marie. From the world of the pantry, we return to the fruit basket, where another common mistake is made with one of the most loved and consumed fruits, bananas. Being a tropical fruit, their nature makes them extremely vulnerable to the cold of the refrigerator, which triggers a chain reaction of negative effects. Bananas are built for hot climates. When exposed to cold temperatures, especially before they are ripe, they suffer severe thermal shock. The enzymes responsible for ripening are deactivated. As a result, a green banana placed in the refrigerator will never ripen properly. Meanwhile, the cold causes another enzyme in the peel to break down, triggering a rapid and irreversible browning process. Beneath that blackened, unappealing skin, the flesh often becomes mushy and develops an unpleasant flavor. But nutrients are also lost. Bananas contain important antioxidants such as dopamine and catechins, which are crucial for brain health and to combat oxidative stress, and the cold accelerates their degradation. Bananas should be kept at room temperature. If you have too many ripe ones, the solution is not the fridge, but the freezer after peeling and cutting them. And now, let's talk about the perhaps most unexpected food, whose storage error is particularly harmful to heart health, a central issue for the elderly: olive oil. It is the beating heart of the Mediterranean diet, and treating it in the wrong way means depriving it of its greatest benefits. Extra virgin olive oil is rich in monounsaturated fats that, at low temperatures, begin to solidify. This is why oil in the fridge becomes cloudy and thick. Although the process is reversible, the real damage occurs due to repeated temperature fluctuations. Every time the oil goes from cold to hot, its chemical structure undergoes stress that dramatically accelerates the oxidation process. Oxidation degrades the most valuable compounds in oil, polyphenols, the powerful antioxidants that give it anti-inflammatory and heart-protective properties. Not only does oxidized oil lose its flavor, it can actually become pro-inflammatory. Olive oil should be stored in a dark glass bottle or can, tightly closed, in a cool, dark cabinet, away from heat sources. Now that we have debunked these 9 myths, it is clear that the refrigerator is not always our best friend. Using it wisely means understanding what needs cold and what, instead, is damaged by it. This knowledge is a form of power. The power to protect our health, to save money by avoiding waste, and to rediscover the true flavor of food. Start small. Take inventory of your fridge and pantry. Free your potatoes and onions from their cold, damp prison and give them a dark, breezy home. Move your bread to the freezer, your honey and oil to the pantry, and let your tomatoes and bananas ripen happily on the counter. Now we want to hear from you. Did this guide surprise you? Were there foods you always kept in the refrigerator without knowing the risks? What is the first change you will make in your kitchen after reading this information? Share your experiences, doubts, and thoughts in the comments below. Let's create a more aware and healthy community together. Thank you for following us on this important journey.